Good evening. Welcome to the Yorktown Central School District Board of Education meeting for November 20th, 2023. Can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular pedagogical employees? Matters made confidential under federal law, FERPA, collective negotiations under the Taylor Law for the YAS and the CTATA units, and to obtain advice of legal counsel.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I have a motion to go back into public session?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good evening. Welcome to the Yorktown Central School District Board of Education meeting for November 20th, 2023. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for our armed forces and those in our community who have lost loved ones, especially the mother of Deborah Outman and the mother-in-law of Deidre Elmerling.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your patience. Sorry we were late coming back out. Yvette, we're up to our first public comment. Did anybody sign up to speak? No? Okay. Ron, we're going to move right into your reports.
Okay, thank you. And again, we apologize for running a little bit over in our executive session. This evening, we're going to continue our series of presentations that we've committed to. The second meeting of each month, we've prepared a presentation for our board, for our community. In September, you'll recall we presented on our Universal Pre-K program. In October, it was on athletics, and there was a focus on modified sports and the potential for that. And today, we're going to present some of the work that we've been doing on analyzing, reviewing student data, using that to inform some of the decisions that we make and programs that we offer and supports that we offer. And so at this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Ms. Ammerling, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, who has been instrumental in leading this work forward. And Ms. Ammerling will introduce Ms. Conroy and the presentation that we're delivering this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Hatter. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving us the time to meet this evening. We did want to share, I'm here with Pam Chesser, Chris Miller. I will be introducing Ms. Conroy in a moment. But the curriculum department, as well as the technology department, worked very closely all throughout last year to identify and organize the many forms of data that we have regarding our students. We have attendance data, state assessment data, report cards, reading, math assessments. We have a lot of rich information about our students, but we were really looking for a way to put it into one place that would be really comprehensive so that we could make really smart, informed, and timely decisions for our students. Data that we had was housed kind of all over the place, honestly. It was in spreadsheets. We could print out reports from the different assessments that we were given. We were looking to import that data to try to make some judgments and to use it timely and efficiently. So in the spring, we did partner with the Lower Hudson Regional Information Center to assist us with developing common goals and practices to make appropriate and timely decisions for our students. Through that work, we met Stephanie Conroy. We were really impressed with her knowledge in these areas, the work that she led all of our data departments. She created data teams in each of the buildings throughout the district. We were really very impressed with her. And when the position for an MTSS coordinator came up, we knew of nobody more perfect for the role. And we were absolutely thrilled when she applied for the position. We're so happy that she joined us officially over the summer. And we're so happy for the work that she continued to do to lead us in and the work that she's developed in each of the buildings. So Stephanie is going to share with you a little bit about the journey that got us to where we are right now. She is going to give you a little overview of the data platform that we did choose. It's called EduClimber, and part of the presentation is going to be a live demonstration of that data. So that's why Stephanie is going to be presenting from the other side of the room. So at this time, thank you, Stephanie. I welcome you to the podium. sharing. Share a lot.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thank you for your time tonight in advance, and thanks, Deirdre, for the introduction. So I'm just going to give you a little preview of the journey that we've been on of viewing our student data. And we're going to review the work that we've done in the past year and a half, what we've come together to do, our new platform, and then our next steps. So how did we get here? As Deirdre spoke about, we developed K-12 data teams, which included a variety of stakeholders, including teachers, administrators, support staff members, and we worked together to establish a common goal across the district. And it was through that goal that we were able to then identify a platform that would help us achieve that goal and facilitate us towards meeting that goal. And the goals that we were able to develop were: the YCSD goal is to create and implement an MTSS plan that collects and evaluates data to support individual student needs. Through this work, we will identify and utilize appropriate interventions to measure student success in meeting their academic, behavioral, and social-emotional needs. Our first action step was to identify the platform that collects and organizes data to support the individual student needs, which is how we came across EduClimber. So our data platform, EduClimber, is helping us meet our goal by centralizing the data, allowing for more efficient and consistent practices, meaning it de-silos the data. So as Deirdre spoke about, we have teachers going onto multiple buttons on their class link and in order to access all the student data. So this allows us to have an easy spot and de-silo the data for them to be able to access that a lot easier. It increases our capacity to make these data-informed decisions by allowing more efficient practices, and then enhances the collaboration amongst the staff members. So we are going to take a tour. Okay, it's my favorite. Okay, so if you take a first look here, these are our students in Yorktown. There's 3,443 students here, okay? And we can start to filter through these students. We can filter through them by school. We can look by disability. We can look by ethnicity. We can look by grade. And we can work through a variety of situations by these different filters here, okay? So if we went back to school and say I gave the example of an administrator such as Pam, Chris, Deirdre, or any of the principals, and they were having a grade level meeting, okay, and they wanted to share some of their student data, this would be a great platform to be able to do that. So say I was in a third grade level meeting, and I wanted to look at our students here, okay? So I wanted to be able to speak to one of our assessments. This is where my proficiency is a little bit helpful. So after the fall, okay, I want to be able to just identify that in STAR reading, we're looking at students that are below the 30th percentile rank. Okay, so we can see in third grade there are 36 students that are below the 30th percentile rank in STAR reading. Okay, so if I'm a teacher in this instance and I'm watching the administrator present, I might see 4 students of mine, okay, on this list, and I'm interested to know how they are doing on all their other assessments as compared to this one data point that the administrator is bringing up, because it's ever more important for us to look holistically at the students and not just at one data point at a time. So that's the beauty of this platform. So if I were to use an example here, and I wanted to look at my students, okay, in my third grade classroom, then I would be able to do so in charts, okay, and all their assessments that they've taken so far, and I would be able to look at them in a data wall, which is something similar as to what the teachers have kind of been used to before in a Google Sheet format. So as I sort this, I see those 4 students of mine that were brought up in that grade level meeting, and I can see that they have a variety of levels on their assessments and their DIBELS and their F&P and their STAR, which we brought up. But I want to be able to take a look at this one student more closely because I'm interested to know a little bit more about them. So if I were to go into this student's profile, I can get a great look as to their story. So I can see all those assessments that I just saw on the data wall. Okay, I can see that they're a part of a Tier 2 reading intervention and they're on track with meeting their goal. I can see all their demographic information over here. I can also see their attendance. I can see any forms that they have up here, which are kind of like Google Docs and the conversations that we've had amongst staff members to come to a decision to maybe place this student into a reading intervention. And any tags, which most likely will say reading and math support from this point forward, okay? So if I wanted to also just take a quick look as to that one data point that my administrator was bringing up, just to get historical context as to, is this student struggling now compared to how they've done before, or what does it look like since they started taking this assessment? So I'm able to click on that one assessment and really get a quick look as to how they've performed over time on this one assessment as compared to the district. Okay, so this is a lot, it's a lot quicker to kind of go through these steps in your mind. As a teacher, you're wondering, as an administrator, you're wondering, and you're able to really find those answers a lot quicker it's not easy work, but it allows kind of everybody to work together to make sure that these answers can be available to people if needed. Okay, so we are going to take a step back in and just talk about the different collaboration efforts that we've had so far. So you can see here on the number 1, the meetings are present on the platform. Okay, so we're able to actually engage in the meetings, which we can view the student data, have conversations on the platform. We can also use action items to help ease the workflow. So I can ask another teacher to fill in a box or give me information on something or get something done with a little bit of a nudge, and it becomes like a to-do item. Okay. We can also have our meetings and our conversations on the platform using the protocols you can see at number 3, which are all customizable and all things that we've worked together to develop. And then lastly, collections and data collections are created people like myself and the curriculum and instruction department to be able to create these places where people can access data and have the ability to kind of go on there at any point in time and look at the same data that we would be creating for them in an easier way. So what do they have to say so far? So everyone always wonders. We're thrilled to be able to see all of our student data in one place. EduClimber enables me to access my student data at any point. It enhances what we're already doing well, and it leads to effective collaboration amongst all staff members. So what is next? We're going to use this platform to help continue to develop the K-12 data teams, continue to identify additional data that can be housed in EduClimber, and what's next to add in there. Build capacity for utilizing the platform, so making sure that the appropriate PD across the district is kind of implemented so everyone knows where and how and what to do on this platform. And then lastly, use EduClimber to assist in making data-informed decisions towards student success, which was aligned to our original goal. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you for your time and for the opportunity to speak to you all, and I hope you liked it.
So thank you for that. That was terrific and really exciting work that we're doing. Mm-hmm. I want to share a few things about the platform just to provide a little more context. Number 1, the data that you saw, everything was completely anonymous, so those were not even student IDs. There's a way to make the data such that not names, but not even a student ID is present. These are all randomly generated numbers. on the administrative end, we would see student names and more information. The other part of this is all of these data already exist within our computer systems. We have them at different points, whether you have to log into Star Reading, you have to log into Fontes and Pinnell, or you have to log in here or there or everywhere. EduClimber brings everything together. So it's not necessarily new data that we're compiling. It's taking existing data, making sure that we're diligent about inputting the data, and having that in a single platform. The other part that I believe is perhaps most impressive about this platform is that we can take multiple factors and variables. If we were looking to identify students who had a certain threshold for reading below their reading level, grade level, reading below grade level, certain number of absences, one or more disciplinary infraction, or whatever the filters are, we can just check a series of boxes and the dashboard will do all of the work for us in helping us to identify students who may need some additional support in whatever the area is. The efficiency that we realize is incredible because now it's less time combing through data, pouring through data, and more time focusing on what supports can we implement for our students. And it's something that's quite impressive. There is also a parent component to this that parents will have access to their data. We're still learning it ourselves and bringing this together ourselves, but that's certainly the next part of the next level of this work. But Stephanie, I thank you for sharing this, for bringing this together. And as you imagine the many data points that we have on each student, and not just academic data point, but you can look at attendance data point and disciplinary data points and any other data points that we have, being able to filter through, take the data, triangulate the data, and be able to make determinations from there is pretty powerful, and it's quite an advancement for us. So we're excited to see what the next steps are. The next steps were identified in those 4 bullet points. But I just wanted to take an opportunity to acknowledge Mrs. Ammerling's role in this, and certainly acknowledge Ms. Conroy's work, Ms. Chesser, Mr. Miller, our principals, and our data teams within each building. They have really, really embraced this model. They recognize the power that this has in supporting students. So I just wanted to take a moment, provide some additional context, and certainly thank my colleagues for all of their efforts.
Thank you. This is really exciting. No, I think we have questions,
Oh,
if you
okay.
don't mind. Lisa, did you have any questions?
Is this in use right now? Are the teachers using it now?
Yes.
And every teacher has access to all students or just their students? Or
So
how does
their
that work?
own students. So they have access to whatever they would see on eSchool, they would see on the platform. So it's only students rostered to them.
Thank you.
Cheryl?
Actually, a comment and a question. I do like the fact that we can see different data categories at a glance, because I really think that talks to the whole child and seeing, exactly what's going on as a whole. So I actually love that. I think that's wonderful. My question is, if we see this being available or some portion of it available to the parents, how soon would we see something like that? I think it could be valuable for them as well.
Yeah, there are a couple. We still have to get some more data up and uploaded before it's something that would be operational on the parent side of it. But I don't know if we have a time frame. Have we established a time frame at this point?
Certainly, if there was a meeting where a parent was speaking to the whole team, there's an IST meeting that's substantial, we would be able to have everything in one place and available for that parent immediately. But in terms of it being interfaced with parents right now, that's something that we would still need to work towards.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That sounds wonderful.
Rashmi?
So I have a 2-part question. So is this mainly for the elementaries, but I think it's at like K to 12?
So it's K to 12, yep, and it's been being used K to 12 for the data teams, yeah.
Okay. Is this more for internal decision making by our administrative team, or does the data flow out of here somewhere else, or how, or is it really for us to understand, how things are going?
It's really internal. It really is internal, Rashmi. The data that is housed is typically what we are already using to make decisions. It doesn't go out of our school district. Really is internal to just the data team use. Each layer, we set permissions in each layer of the system. So what I get to see might be a little different than what a building administrator sees. It might be different than what the school psychologist gets to see, and certainly down to the classroom teacher level. So we really work hard to maintain data privacy and protect all of our students in that realm, but it really is meant to really target instruction, to target interventions quickly, timely, to measure them, to see if they're working. Sometimes in the past, we would wait till a big jump in terms of taking another assessment point. A student, maybe if they were in an intervention that was not working quite well for them, this gives us the ability to have real-time data. So each time a teacher is giving an assessment, we get to monitor on the back end if the student is making that line of progress or if it's no progress at all. So it's going to give us the ability to jump right in and really provide some updated and timely and appropriate interventions for that student.
Perfect, thank you.
Mike?
It's very interesting. If I'm understanding this correctly, this tool is basically an aggregator. So it's pulling data, or we're entering data that exists in multiple other systems, and this is used to just sort and view and use it for determining.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're still using a whole bunch of other programs for capturing data, correct?
Yes.
And then how quickly does that get updated and then transition in? Is it?
Depending on the assessment, some of it is immediate and some is an overnight turnaround.
Okay, so it's
So it's
very
very
timely,
quick.
in other
Yeah,
words.
and some might be just quarterly, some again is very, is teacher made, and we want to add it because it's important information. So it might be like a quarterly or a 3 time a year type of upload that is handheld, so we can make sure that it's correct.
Okay, and then things like attendance, that's like every day?
That's every day, but a student report card grade.
Yeah.
So for the middle school, high school, 4 times a year, that data is going to be, as soon as it's clicked into eSchool, it's uploaded into this system so that we really can make quick decisions, regardless of the data point.
Nice, thank you.
Catalina?
This is very exciting, especially knowing how time-consuming it is to go through all the different platforms just to get one student and then look at it as a whole. So I think this would really change how effectively we could see each student and make timely decisions. So I'm very excited.
Pete? Oh,
Sorry.
How long has this been around?
So EduClimber probably has been around probably 5 or 10 years. It was it was owned by a different company before, and then Renaissance acquired it. So Renaissance is the STAR platform that the district has used for a while. But it's really just kind of a new idea in education, the data dashboard idea of being able to centralize and aggregate data.
And really, the only reason I asked, we had talked about this 10 years ago in terms of how do we aggregate data and bring it all together. There's multiple platforms that are feeding this data, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is the goal to have this be the single source of data at some point to where we don't have people going into 10 different things in order to aggregate the data?
So everyone is still going to need to go into eSchool to take their attendance, or they're still going to have to go into eSchool to mark their grades. But the main goal is to have everything live in one space. So when we have the data conversations, that everything is pulled into one picture so that we can make that holistic interpretation of the data in those conversations. So that less preparing, less bringing up the pile of papers to the meeting, and more conversations.
And then is this all, is it an automatic upload or like
So
as soon as data is input into these separate system, it automatically gets uploaded into?
So, yeah, some of the platforms like STAR and eSchool are automatic overnight because they exist with Renaissance. So it's like a nightly sync. And then some have, by the amazing team of Amanda Everly and Vicky Feigl, you know, the data team, to make sure that things are being uploaded on a schedule so that everything is appropriately there when we need it.
Actually, that was going to be one of my questions. How do we ensure that everything gets timely? And it's the data team that ensures that everything is done in the time frame that it's supposed to be?
Most of that work is happening at the central office right now, but the data teams are really helping us to inform what they want to see as quickly as can be. The data looks a little bit different at the secondary level than it does K-5 because so many more reading assessments and math assessments and a lot more progress monitoring when kids are learning to read. But at the middle school level, high school level, that data is typically put in a guidance department puts them alive. The assistant principals would be entering and the administrators if it was disciplinary data. Certainly, the report card grades is quarterly.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different for each building.
Last question. And students with IEPs, is that data uploaded into this also, or?
So the only thing that's identified is if they have an IEP or a 504, but their IEP information, the details do not live on this platform.
Okay. Very exciting, very cool.
I have a question, and I guess it goes back, and you need your microphone if you're going to answer this, but at the high school level, I understand at the elementary school level how it works because there's one teacher, so they can see all the data, but at high school, they're teaching in different classes, so if a high school teacher has a student who's not doing well, are they able to see if that's a pattern in other classes, or how are they able to see or understand that data?
That's where we're trying to go. So to be honest, we've spent a lot of time building the K-5 data teams. We have meetings scheduled with the middle school and high school. The teams that have already come together, they've told us what they really need. They comprised a lot, those teams, of the guidance counselors, administrators, school psychologists. So they know what they want. The rollout to teachers is what's going to come next. This was already rolled out to every teacher in K-5. So the rollout is going to look a little bit different at the secondary level. We were waiting until they had that first marking period grade in. We have updated attendance for them. So I think when they see it, it's going to seem more purposeful. The historical data piece is going to be significant. So if you are that 9th grade English teacher and you want to see what your students are, you have a brand new group of 120 students in front of you, you will be able to go in and see all of their historical records. You'll be able to see samples of their writing. So I believe that the high school teachers and all secondary teachers are really going to begin to appreciate having access to a very long and lengthy picture of their students.
Yeah, my thing is if you're seeing a student struggle in this class right now, are we able to figure out if it's a pattern? I'm not just having trouble in English, so the faster we can get to the problem, the more we can help the students. So it doesn't, if they're having trouble in English and social studies and science, you don't know it unless there's access to the data or the teachers are talking to each other.
And that's where we're headed.
It's harder in the high school.
And that's where we're headed.
Right.
And the beauty of this is we've been on EduClimber now in earnest for a couple months. So it's pretty young. We're in the infancy of this work, and the steps we've taken to this point has just been nothing short of remarkable. And many districts are moving in this direction, but few are there. And we're not there yet. We've made some great progress. That's the next level of our work, and that's where we will be. Rolling out a parent portal will be the next level of our work to make sure that the information is available both at home and in school. But I think what you're saying, what you're describing, Jackie, is where we're headed, and that's kind of 2 or 3 steps where we are.
I know, but it's so exciting. I want to be the 2 or 3 steps already there.
Can I just add
really
one
good
thing
stuff.
to that? So like Ms. Ammerling is saying, the teacher would be able to see all that data because they are rostered to that student. But it is the conversations and the work of the data teams that will allow that type of work to happen. So that's what we're looking forward to. So they will be able to see it all. It's just a matter of making sure that we can have the conversations that are guiding us in the right direction.
This is just so exciting. Thank you so much for your hard work. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to add? We really, really appreciate
Thank
this.
you for your time.
Thank you, Deidre.
Thanks, Steve.
So I have a few more updates that I'll continue with. I just want to take a moment to commend the Yorktown High School Drama Club. They delivered a presentation, or a production of Play On over the weekend. My son and I attended the Friday night performance, and it may have been the funniest high school show that I've seen in my time here and anywhere else. It was brilliant. The students were absolutely incredible. What a great, great performance. I think everyone walked out of the auditorium just so wowed and just laughing about their favorite part. My son and I today were actually joking this morning before we went off to school and work, just which part was funniest. It was terrific, absolutely brilliant, and certainly the highlight of my weekend and the weekend of many. I wanted to take a moment to also share that at our next Board of Education meeting, we will be having a presentation on the facilities project that the board and the district will be putting forward. And I wanted to just take a moment in the interim between now and then, over these next 2 weeks, I wanted to just take a moment to show you how to access the website. We have the analytics of our website, and we see some traffic. We'd like to see more traffic. All of the presentations we've delivered, the survey that we conducted of our community with over 560 responses, which is incredible, are all posted to the website. So Yvette, if I can ask you to go to the district homepage, and we'll just get a quick demonstration of how to access. So on the district homepage, under the Good to Know section, and if you're using a mobile platform, whether it's a phone or an iPad, it's the steps are similar. So under Good to Know, you'll see the facilities needs assessment. So if you click on that, we've built this beautiful website for the project that we're proposing, and for everyone who's been watching the meetings at home, it's essentially the two-proposition proposal that we've been discussing in each of the meetings. There's an FAQ that's front and center and prominent. The survey results were previous. One of the big questions, and I'll ask you to hold it there for just 1 second, Yvette. One of the biggest questions we've received is with regard to the idea of expanding the existing elementary schools with the idea of reopening French Hill. And on the right hand of the screen that you can see now, if you scroll down about halfway on the page, you'll see a huge analysis that we performed that speaks to the differences specifically in the recurring costs. And French Hill's recurring costs are well above what it would take to expand the recurring costs of expanding our existing buildings to the tune of almost $3 million in excess. And now if you continue to scroll down, you'll see some additional questions, but further on the page, there are some letters that have been put out, and then you can keep going all the way to the bottom. And these are the different meeting videos. All of the presentations are there. They're in order, and you're welcome to access any one of those presentations, all of the presentations. The most recent presentation from October 23rd is relatively comprehensive, and that'll provide the most robust information that we have at this point until our next meeting in December, where we'll have our architects and the construction managers presenting a full scope and cost and even timing of the phasing of the project. So we look forward to that. I just wanted to be sure that we guided the community on how to access that information. It's all available. Everything's online. It's a terrific website that can provide just a bunch of answers, questions and answers, and context in the form of the meeting presentations. Yeah.
Can I just ask, Yvette, can you go back to that home page for a second? I was just noticing that our the section in the middle, Good to Know, that seems to be alphabetical.
Yeah.
Have we thought about prioritizing what the most recent issues might be?
Generally, news and announcements is where we prioritize. Good to Know is generally where we alphabetize.
Because board policies being number one to me is like, who's looking for that, right? I mean, why wouldn't we put the most, the most pressing and most important things at the top?
You know what we'll do? If it's okay with you, what we can do is we can have a redundancy. We can list it front and center under news and announcements, and then we can keep with the Good to Know, because we tried to make this user-friendly and intuitive. And what might be most pressing for us may not be the most pressing for those who are accessing our website.
Brian has something to say.
Can you scroll all the way to the top, Yvette? All the way to the top?
Right there, facility needs assessment.
Oh, there it
Oh,
is,
nobody
too.
looks
So we have
there.
it there too. But what we can do is we can create another redundancy. We can add it to.
Don't change it because of me. I'm just,
it's great.
when I'm looking at it, I'm saying this is something that's really current and it's like halfway down the page already. That's
No,
all.
But it's right there too, it's next
I-
to it, it's all over the place.
What we can do is we can put it prominently under news and announcements, have that be first there. But under the good to know, it's generally, people visit our website for so many reasons, whether it's lunch menus, athletic schedules, school calendar, board policies, whatever the reason might be. But I realize my microphone's been off this entire time, so I apologize for the audience at home if maybe it got picked up through one of the other microphones. But what we'll do is we'll create some additional redundancies so that we create just a more intuitive user experience. So we'll
Looking
add.
for more traffic, so I'm just
Yeah,
throwing it out there.
absolutely. No, absolutely. And we want to make it accessible. So what we can do is we can put the facilities needs assessment first under news and announcements, and we'll keep it there.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Do you see more traffic once with social media? I know when you put up the links, do you see that going to the website?
No.
No? No.
We haven't shared, we want to do more active social media campaign push to let people know this. So we haven't analyzed it.
Where we see our greatest analytics in terms of the user experience and accessing the information we're putting out is through the SMORE newsletter. That's where the analytics are at its highest. With SMORE, one of the benefits of using SMORE is not only can we see how many readers we have, we get to see how much time they're spending on the newsletter, and if they're clicking a link, if there's a specific story that's resonating with our community, it gives us insights to that helps us to understand there's an interest here. And we should continue to make sure that we provide more information in that area because our community wants it. Our community is interested in the content. So SMORE has been a really useful resource, and that's where the Google platform, we used to do these newsletters in Google Docs, and you're limited. You see how many readers you have, but you don't really get to see what their interest is, time spent, engagements in the different articles, links that are clicked. So that's the power of SMORE. So we do see a lot through SMORE, and we actually, Brian and I met today to talk about social media and some of the other things that we're looking to do.
Can I make a comment? This website's amazing. So Brian,
Brian's
thank
the
you.
architect. Brian built it.
Yeah, thank you. It really has come leaps and bounds from where it was, and the information that's available for those that want to find it is really, it's really incredible. So I just wanted to point that out and thank you, Brian, for all this hard work.
Yes, Brian has been absolutely extraordinary, and what a terrific addition to our team. So I thank you for acknowledging Brian's efforts, and I think we all echo that.
All right, anything else?
Just that the winter athletic season has started. We look forward to all of our student athletes participating, and best of luck to them as they embark on their different seasons. We look forward to having our community back into the facilities for winter athletics. We have winter concerts coming up. We just had a first grade concert at Mohansick. It was absolutely beautiful. We are in concert season once we get back from the Thanksgiving recess. And so, again, I've sent out an invitation to our senior citizen group in town, inviting them to our campus, whether it's the band, the orchestra, the chorus concerts. We'd love to have you. It's beautiful music, absolutely delightful evening, so all are welcome to come out to those events. And just finally, happy Thanksgiving to everyone in our community, wishing you a happy and healthy Thanksgiving with family and friends. And I'll close my report on that.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to board discussion. We put the modified sports survey development back on for discussion because I think there's a lot of pieces to this, and it's not quite as easy as just putting a survey out. Because I don't know if we have consensus or an understanding of what we're actually surveying. And I think that everybody has kind of a different opinion on it. So I think we need to know what we're trying to get answered. I mean, not what the answer is, but what are we trying to answer before we send out a survey? I don't know if anybody has any starting points with this. Cheryl?
I think part of it is knowing what the trade-off is, the cost benefit, and that would be the cost. So I think that's the biggest piece is what, if we get it, which, you know, everyone would, I would assume, be excited to have it, but what would be the cost of adding it to the budget? So I think that is, you know, going to be part of the budget process as well. And then the other question is, what are the expectations? If we do introduce it, are we going to do it, you know, as a staggered introduction? Are we going full force? How would we manage that? So I don't know if some of that education would help before the survey went out, or, you know, having a piece, a paragraph in the survey about that, or if we're not really at the point where we can provide that information yet. And so I think that's what we're struggling with. You can send out a survey, but I don't know if we have the other piece of the information. So I think that's sort of where we're at, because I just don't think we have enough information to send out a survey. But I don't know how accessible that information is, and if we can really, it's kind of 2020, can we really give that information yet without the survey? So that's sort of where I'm at with it, I think, right, when we looked at it.
Yeah, we presented on October 23rd on this topic, and the concept of a survey had come up, and as I look back at that meeting, I was a little reluctant to commit to a survey because the complexity is exactly what you shared. Where in isolation, if we were to offer a modified sports program, I think we'd be hard-pressed to hear anyone say, no, I don't think that's a good idea at all. However, at what cost? And the cost changes depending on what we're considering. So as an example, if we're considering something, and I'm going to use one extreme and I'll use the other extreme. If we're using something like football, football is a very expensive sport to be able to host. Helmets are $400 to $500 a piece, and you're going to carry 60 of them. Shoulder pads are a couple $100 a piece, and pads and so on and so forth, and then field space and all of the transportation piece. So the trade-off for something like a football would be greater than the trade-off of a sport such as a track. Track is not an expensive sport to run at all. You can carry 100 children on a track team. The trade-off may not be any at all. We might be able to offer a track program and absorb that within next year's budget. So I think the point of, well, what is the trade-off? It's a great question. I just don't know if we can answer that until we've identified more of a direction that we'd like to head. And that's where I don't know if a survey will fully capture the information we're hoping to obtain through this survey. Because I would venture to say, if we ask the community, would you like modified sports, I posit that it would almost be unanimous that people would want some form of a modified sports program. But at what cost? And that part is quite challenging to answer in a survey. So we're brainstorming some other opportunities to gather information from the community, whether it's small focus groups or smaller group meetings, to just have these conversations with members of the community. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it becomes the reality of what we can offer. Can we offer, with one turf field, can we offer something that a sport that requires a turf field? With limited gym space, can we offer something that requires the use of a gymnasium? It's all a trade-off. It's all a trade-off with regard to not just programs, but practice times. And at what time will practice conclude? So those are all factors that just make a survey difficult to construct well. We can construct a survey, but the purpose of constructing the survey is to get good data back that we can use to inform our decision. I'm not convinced that we can create a great survey at this point. I'm obviously willing to continue to try to develop one and try to work toward one, but I do believe that there need to be further discussions with regard to what feasibly can we offer and what are the costs associated with the various sports. So we can calculate the costs, we can calculate potential student enrollment, and obtain so many other data points. And we've been working with some of the other school districts to understand what offerings they have, because the vast majority of school districts do offer some level of a modified sports program. And that's something that we've learned during this research. So Cheryl, I thank you for raising that point, and that was exactly what I was struggling with in terms of the development of a survey.
Pete, you have questions?
Lisa, you
Lisa,
seemed like you had a question first.
No, it was actually exactly what Cheryl and Dr. Hatter said, that before we put a survey out, we need to know what we're trying to accomplish with that survey. And I agree. I can't think of anyone in the community that would say, no, don't give the kids that program, right? We want every kid to have every program possible. But what's the trade-off there? So I think you're right. I think it's premature to send a survey out and say, hey, do you want to offer modified sports? The answer is yes, right? The answer is always going to be yes.
So I believe we can still get a survey if we create the survey with the right questions. Yes, of course, if you ask the question, do you want modified sports, they're going to say yes. But to me, the real question should be, do you want modified sports at the expense of another program? Do you want modified sports that will cost nothing to the district? I mean, the wording of it is what we're trying to accomplish. Because again, we all recognize that adding modified sports, different ones, is going to be at an expense to the district. So what are we going to take away in order to accommodate that? So, but Dr. Hart, if you're saying that we can perhaps offer a sport without it being an impact to the district, to me, that's what we should go to bat for, is that something along those lines. But I do believe we can ask a very simple survey, or have a very simple survey that asks what we're trying to accomplish, too.
But I'm not sure what I'm still struggling with what we're trying to accomplish, because it isn't, do you want modified sports? Because everybody's going to say yes. And if most of the districts around us have some sort of a modified sports program, it sort of behooves us to start to implement it in some sort of a way. But that, to me, becomes budgetary, not necessarily a survey. Can we do it? Can we afford to do it? But I don't think we necessarily need to have a survey. I mean, it would be, what can the district do? How can they start to implement it? And what would be the path? What would be the 1-year plan, the 3-year plan, the 5-year plan? But do we really need a survey for that? That's what I'm not sure. Reshma?
So I just want to piggyback a little bit of what Jackie was saying. So in my mind, I think it's a bit premature to ask for information from the community without giving them more information. And I think we need to get further along in the budget cycle to really know where we stand. Because we know every year it's, we're faced with a tax cap, costs are going up, it's an inflationary environment. Our special ed expenses are probably going to be higher just based on, statistics in the area. We have other programs to support, right? There are music programs you want to support. There are STEM programs you want to support. So I think we need to be further along the budget process to know where we stand from a pure number standpoint before we can ask for any more, information or know what else we could take on.
A lot of times when we ask the administration to prepare the budget, they give us, add-ons or, subtractions. And maybe what we can ask is, how would they implement it, and where would it fall in not only priorities, but in the cap placement? And maybe that's where we start. I mean, unless there's somebody on the board who doesn't think we should even start to implement a modified sports program if we can afford it. I mean, I don't know if there's actually someone saying, no, we don't want it. It's, can we afford it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Jackie. I don't think that there's any modified sport that's going to have zero cost. There's always going to be a cost. So really then I'm looking at Ms. Sanfilippo to say to us, here's what we can afford this year. And we're just not there yet, right? We don't have budget numbers in front of us. We're just not there yet. We all want it, but there's going to be a cost no matter what it is. And, a trade-off for this, a track team, modified sport track team versus what program? Like, you can't ask the community, are you willing to give up a program? Well, what program are you asking me to give up in exchange? So I think it is just too early, and we need more information from Ms. Sanfilippo before we proceed.
jump in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
So I agree. This appears to be primarily a budget discussion. However, there is another component to it that we haven't talked about, and that is the philosophical component. I mean, we're sitting here saying everybody agrees we should have modified sports, but years ago we made a conscious decision to go away from modified sports and towards a more robust freshman, and JV program, and we're not even discussing whether philosophically, that makes sense anymore or doesn't. So maybe there are two discussions to be had here. One is the budgetary component, but the other side of it is, what's our philosophy going to be as a district? Are we a modified sports district, or are we one that, is what we are now, which is more heavily based on freshman sports and JVB teams? So I think there's a secondary discussion. I don't know about a survey. I'm not there yet.
But when we cut modified sports all those years ago, one, it was budgetary, but two, it was because we were told at that point that there were almost no other districts that had modified sports left in the area. Now, if you're finding that they do have it, I don't think it was philosophical that we dropped it. There was nobody left.
Well, but that's the philosophy. The philosophy is, where do we get the most support for, our students? And at the time, we were having a difficult time finding teams to play in the modified sports vein. Let's also remember, if I'm not mistaken, and Peter, you might be able to help me with this, I think it was like a $75,000 line item at the time. And we're talking about multiples and multiples of that now. So it's not that simple. So we have something. We're talking about going in a different direction. I think we all have to understand if that's definitely the direction we want to go in, regardless of the budget.
But I
right?
think
once we know that, then we can figure out what the budget impact is.
Right.
I also saw that our last presentation, I think, was heavily attended by the stakeholders. So I think also we have to see what they're looking at as well and wanting to bring it into the community, us being one of the only districts that do not have modified sports in Westchester. And I'm not saying all sports. And again, it comes to budget, and I think it's too early for the survey, but we don't have one. Other districts have one or two, but I think it's definitely something that the community wants.
I don't think that's a disagreement.
Well, so Mike's point is a good one. I wasn't here for that meeting, but I did watch it back. And Mr. Barrett made a lot of comments about how modified sports can be good in a way, but could also be bad in a way, that it would then cut off the career of a student who just hadn't reached their peak yet. And we certainly don't want that to happen. In a lot of the sports, we have YAC where everybody plays. I hate to see kids cut from any team at any level. So yes, I understand. I wasn't here. I understand that there were a number of people here, but I don't know that that's representative of the entire community, or just those individuals who have kids who have an interest in that. So I do think Mike is right that we need to look at what's our philosophy. I think we need to listen to Ms. Sanfilippo in terms of the money. I think we need to listen to our athletic director in terms of what that means and with respect to the development of an athlete, and whether or not modified sports in a particular area would be good or bad, or we need to, have more JVB teams or freshman teams or whatever the case may be. And it's certainly something we need to look at and talk about. And I agree with Mike as well that there's a bigger decision to make.
Usually in the budget process, the athletic presentation is fairly early on. So maybe that's the point where they come back with the philosophy, the cost, what they think they can and can't do, and if they think we should or shouldn't do it. But maybe that's the point when we have all the other numbers in front of us for the athletic department. Maybe that's the appropriate time to have the discussion. And if there's a survey needed at that point, then we have actual stuff to ask. I don't know, otherwise, go ahead, Rashmi.
Yeah, I think that would be a logical point, but I do think we need to wait just a little bit more to see how the other pieces fall in place. So, for example, we don't know right now what transportation expenses will look like, right? So, heating oil prices, just that kind of stuff. I think we do need to wait until we have all the pieces. But yes, you're right, Jackie. I think we'll get an early sense of things, but I think we should wait until we know we have the full picture.
I agree, and also the demographics. Not everybody can afford YAC. And, we could cut people off, but also we could introduce kids who do not have the money to join YAC as well at that time. I think there's both sides that we could look at that.
Right, I'm not here to advocate for YC, but I also think that there is a policy they have in place for a student who couldn't afford it, just like our PTA has a policy in place for students who can't afford a school trip. But if we go down that road, I think that's a rabbit hole. So do we start to offer ballet classes? Because not every parent can afford ballet classes. Do we offer gymnastics? Because not everyone can afford gymnastics. Do we offer, I don't think that can be our guideline as to whether or not we should offer it. I think it's the impact to our entire community in terms of the financial and the impact to our student athletes and whether we're cutting them off early based upon all of those things that Mr. Barrett said at that meeting.
One of the things I did notice on that list that Ron shared with it is there are several sports that aren't offered by our community groups,
Sure.
that maybe those are a starting point, that because then we're not affecting anybody, and it does give our students then a leg up because they don't have any other place maybe necessarily, like track or field hockey and
Agreed.
those types of places.
So, I don't know where we are in the conversation in terms of beginning, middle, or end, but I'm leaving the conversation, to be honest with you, optimistic about the next steps, because it sounds like we're on the same page with regard to opportunities for students, and that being a good thing.
Yeah.
And just looking at how does it fit in with what we're trying to do in the larger scheme of our district with regard to the budget and budget development. So I think there's a pathway there, and maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I do think there's a pathway there to not have a large budgetary impact, not turn children off, provide opportunities that maybe aren't afforded to the children of our community through other outlets within the town, and do so within the athletics budget without having it impact any other programs in the athletics budget. So I'm optimistic, and I think that I think the work of the administration now is to start taking what we heard here today, putting it together, and coming back during budget season with some ideas and some thoughts for the board to consider.
Jackie, just a couple of things. I'm sorry. Lisa made some excellent points, and I agree about, where do we go with this? But I disagree with the thought that we should have the philosophical discussion as part of the budget discussion. I think they should be two separate things. I think you need to decide on the philosophy, then we'll figure out how we're going to pay for it, right? So, because that's going to drive a lot of it, right? If we decide that the philosophy is modified sports is more important than these other programs, then it's an easy math, right? We take away some programs, we add others, you balance it out, whatever it is. But I just think there's a philosophical discussion that we have to have before we get to the budget items, because that's going to drive where those dollars get spent. And I don't want to spend our budget presentations debating philosophy. That should be done already by the time we get to the budget lines. So I just kind of disagree with your approach to how we're going to handle it.
Well,
The discussion's got to be had way before we get to that.
Right,
It really does.
so is philosophically, we ask, is the philosophical question, do we want modified sports, or is it the same as a survey? Do we want modified sports if it's going to cut something else? That's where I'm struggling.
Philosophically, we have, at the high school level, we have multiple sports that have a freshman, a JV, a JVB team. So there's 3 different platforms for a 9th and 10th grader to play. And I know the argument's going to be, well, 8th graders are brought up and 7th graders are brought up. So maybe those type of things, that's philosophical. It says maybe we eliminate a B team to have a modified team. That's the philosophy that we have to determine. And I know we want to give as many kids as many opportunities as possible, but some of it is maybe starting earlier. And I think that, between Rob and Ron and the administration to really have that philosophical discussion, because Rob has a very distinct opinion about what this is, and we're trying to advocate for the community here on what we're hearing that they might want also. So I do think we cannot wait till the budget discussion to talk about this. It's got to be done way, way before. I agree with Mike in that 100%. And maybe it is just concentrating on looking at what we don't have at the high school level and saying, okay, this is the direction we want to go. whatever sport that is, and pick one. Because I don't think, because what will end up happening is whatever we pick, someone's going to say,
Oh,
why didn't you pick
Of course.
this? So I
Of
think we
course.
do have to, as a group, say, okay, this is the direction we're going, this is what we're going to try, but have a very robust discussion around it, like we're having right now. I think that's part of it.
So maybe we need Rob to come back to another meeting and have the discussion with him, because it is his department and
It's his
what he feels
program.
about it, yes.
So that's,
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, philosophically, I think I agree with having the philosophy discussion first, and I'm happy to talk philosophy all day. But I think we live in a very practical world with, with a ceiling on the budget. So I think that doesn't make it practical to have a philosophy discussion without having a whole on numbers. It's just how I think. So I think for me, it's more helpful to have numbers that I'm looking at and then kind of figure out from there. But obviously I love hearing from Rob and.
Well, wouldn't it be, I mean, I don't think it would be that difficult for them to give raw numbers. Like, if you put in this type of a sport, it would cost X. If you put in this type of a sport, it could cost Y. And those could be raw numbers that could go into a philosophical discussion, because then at least you'd have something that you could have an eye on. Would that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's good, but I don't know what I would do with the numbers until we're,
You plugged it into
Yes,
the budget.
exactly,
I know.
exactly.
Right.
Yes.
It's kind of circular.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
maybe Ms. Sanfilippo or Dr. Hatter, someone can contact one of the surrounding districts that has a modified sport and get an idea of the cost per program, how many kids are in it, that kind of thing, and whether or not it is affecting their high school teams.
because Yorktown is known for its high school sports teams. That is what we're known for. So philosophically, is that something that we want to move away from? That's the question.
Right.
But there's a numbers piece to it, so here we are.
So do we want to have this discussion early in January, in December? When do we want to have this discussion?
You're talking about the philosophical discussion, is that what
Yeah.
you're referring to?
Early
Bring
Jan is
Rob in,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, bring
early
Rob
Jan.
in as well.
To bring Rob in early in January, and that when you're still developing your budget, does that make sense?
Sure.
That gives him time to,
because the first presentation is going to be in what, January or February?
February, I
February.
believe.
Okay, so either or.
Yeah,
Ron,
anytime
I don't know if this
Yeah,
is
I would say
possible, but when you
whenever-
ask the
Yeah.
other districts, like any new modified sports and how that correlates with their academic in middle school, if that increases their,
I haven't. I can ask.
We could
I
ask
don't know
if
if, I don't know if those
I don't-
data exist or how reliable those data
Mm-hmm.
are, just due to so many other factors. And truth is, I don't know how much can be shared
Yeah.
with regard to student assessment data or student performance data. With regard to athletics for students who play a sport or when they're in season or out of season. But I think I hear the conversation. I think we can be prepared to present the board with something in January. And I certainly understand the part of not presenting this in isolation, not just presenting philosophically, but presenting all the other components. But I think it's a great conversation that we're having, and a great conversation to have, because we're talking about opportunities for children. So how terrific of a conversation that is. So I look forward to continuing that discussion. We'll be prepared for January.
Lisa, did you ever finish up?
No, I was just going to say, is January enough time for you and your team to gather information from surrounding districts, given, the holiday schedules? And that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, yes, and thank you for that, for considering that piece of it. I don't know if we'll be able to get academic performance data, but we will be able to, and we know which districts offer which sports, and we'll be able to get startup costs, because the startup costs are certainly different than the recurring expenses. Once you have the football helmets, outside of reconditioning, you're not purchasing new helmets every year. Once you have the equipment, you're not purchasing new equipment every year, certainly not the consumable items, but we'll be able to get startup costs.
Okay. Thank you all. All right, we're going to go up to board reports. I'm going to start, Cheryl, with policy.
Sure. The last time we met was on November 2nd. We were all in attendance at that meeting. We reviewed 9 policies, and they're all ready for first read tonight from the board. Key highlights we had, we've talked about returning to a meeting schedule of once per month until we're ready to review the student wellness policy. We've discussed now that the second meeting per month is going to be reserved for our larger policies that require multiple meetings for review. So that's why you saw a decrease in the amount of policies. We went from, probably 27.
That wasn't
the
a
last
decrease.
time. Well, from my last number I reported. So anyway, you'll see it's going to go down a little bit, as it will be less than our first few reports from this year, or this school year, when we hit the wellness policy as well, because we'll continue to review that at that second meeting. Recommendations to the board, the policy adoption, deletion, and first reads are all on today's agenda. Follow-up items, again, we're working toward reviewing the student wellness policy and the regulations, so I think our anticipation is that that'll happen after the holiday break at some point, and our next meeting is on December 7th.
Terrific. Audit.
So the audit committee will meet again after the new year. At the present time, Lisa Sanfilippo and her team, they're working with the internal auditors, so we will meet with them after the new year to go over their report and go from there.
Terrific. Fiscal advisory, Mike?
No update. Fiscal advisory meets again in January.
Okay. Steering met on October 24th and November 7th. We are meeting again tomorrow. Our last meetings, we talked about the current turf field replacement, the main turf field that we have. We are finalizing the design. Our goal is to get it into production in December so that it will be ready and manufactured for us by the end of the year. We had a conference call with A-Turf, which is the manufacturer. We've also discussed the proposed bond. We've reviewed anticipated costs and discussion. We've had discussions around the second proposition, which involves an additional turf field and a concession stand along with other items. And our key highlights are our follow-up items. We want to continue to refine the items in the bond. We want to prepare for meetings with stakeholders. We want to figure out how to get the information out to the community so that they have, and the residents, how do we get this information out? How do people understand what we're trying to do? We have the website. What are the other avenues for making sure people really fully understand what we're trying to do? Like I said, we meet again tomorrow. And now we have our new committee, Catalina Educational Vision.
So we had our initial first meeting with Dr. Hatter, so the Educational Vision Committee is in the process of still being formed. This is a board-level committee that looks at the larger policy-level approach to education. In this district, several aspects of our educational processes are embedded in the board policy. So the role of the committee would be to research and investigate best practices, make recommendations for policy changes to the board. I'll be serving as the committee chair. I'll be joined by Jackie and Mike, Dr. Hatter, and we're still in the process of developing our charter. So I'll be able to update you and have a draft to share at hopefully by the next committee update.
Terrific, thank you. We're going to go on to policies. Policy adoption, a motion to approve the second. Oh, what did I get action? Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped, I was trying to go faster. Sorry, board action items. Can I have a motion to approve the November 6th board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report for October 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I have a motion to approve the claims audit report for October 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And a motion to approve the extra classroom reports for October 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now policies. A motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the following policies: 0300 accountability, 0350 evaluation of instructional programs, 4321.2 school-wide pre-referral approaches and interventions, 4321.3 allocation for space for special education programs, 4321.6 availability of alternative format instructional materials for students with disabilities, 4730 homework, 5314 corporal punishment, 5605 voter registration and pre-registration for students. Anybody have any comments on them? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Deletion, be it resolved that the following regulation shall be deleted from the policy manual because it is included within the policy. That is 4325R for academic intervention services regulation.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we have a first read on the following policies: 4321.7, district-wide and statewide assessments of students with disabilities; 4321.9, declassification of students with disabilities; 4321.11, public report of revisions to district policies, practices, and procedures upon finding of significant disproportionality; 4321.12, use of timeout rooms and physical restraints and adversaries; 4321.30, adversary, sorry. 4321.14, special education personnel; 4325, academic intervention services; 9520.6, the rights of employees to express breast milk in the workplace. Anybody have any questions, comments? I have a comment. It's not fair that 4321 has all those points and extra policies. It just adds it to the book. All right. Nobody has any questions? All right. Move on to personnel. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, a motion that the following be approved. Certified personnel, we have appointments, other compensation, extra duty. We have coaches, volunteers, a couple of corrections. Under classified personnel, we have a permanent appointment and additions to the substitute list.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Business office. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent, the Yorktown Central School District Board of Education hereby empowers the board president to enter into the agreement with FBA of Syosset to administer the district's flexible spending plan from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2025, pending receipt of required insurance documents.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A motion to approve the following appointment to the district-wide safety school team for the 23-24 school year. Alan Heel, the YHS teacher, and Christine McCombs, an assistant principal at the high school.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Sure.
Dr. Hutter, can you just tell us what the district-wide school safety team does?
Absolutely. It's, first of all, it's one of the requirements by regulation. And what we do is we look at the matters of health and safety, specifically student safety, that go beyond a building. So, for example, in our last meeting, we talked about radios and communication across buildings in the event of an emergency. We have spoken about the evacuation procedures for our buildings. So we have the school resource officers, part of the committee. We have members of the administration, teaching staff, facilities staff, central and building administrators are part of the committee, and we look at various aspects of safety on our campuses that go across school buildings. So each school has its own safety team, and they'll coordinate many of the emergency drills within the building, whether it's a fire drill, an evacuation drill, a lockdown drill, whatever the case may be within the buildings. And our district safety team honestly brings representatives from each of those building teams together so that we can understand. And Mr. Mignani serves as a liaison of the board to that committee. And we'll discuss first of all, we'll debrief drills that have happened and events that have happened in the buildings. And then we'll talk about some larger items. Radios are of one specific concern, and then cell phone boosters are another item that we've been addressing because it's not unique to a building, it's a larger district level piece.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that question. Acceptance of the transportation study.
All those in favor?
I did all those in favor,
Aye.
didn't I?
No,
Aye?
she had the
Aye.
question in between.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I thought we finished it. I'm getting there. All right. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby accepts the proposal submitted by Transportation Advisory Services for transportation consulting services, including a comprehensive efficiency study and a RFP pre-bid specification development for the cost of $23,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Go ahead. Yep. Ron?
Dr. Hatter, can you explain what this is?
So for the transportation study, and we previously shared that we're at the end of our contract with Total Transportation. So we're reaching the point where we need to put together a request for proposal or bid specifications so that any transportation contractor can bid on our account. It's very technical work. It's very detailed and specific work to ensure that we're getting the best value for taxpayers, whether it's through route efficiency, whether it's through the size of the bus, volume of students who we schedule for a single bus. And that requires a level of expertise that exceeds our capacity within the school district. So we have contracted with TAS, which is Transportation Advisory Services, so that we can enlist their support in developing bid specs, looking at efficiency of our fleet, looking at efficiency of our routes, looking at how we're scheduling children to ride buses. We're optimistic that we can craft bid specs in this inflationary environment that minimize the increase, but we do anticipate a substantial increase in transportation costs. That's been the reality across the region. It's been the reality across the country. And what we're hoping to do is if we can really, really hone in on a smartly crafted RFP or bid, we can lower the impact to our operating budget through the bid process. So, Lisa, I'm not sure if there's anything you want to add to that. Okay.
No, and I asked this question already, so I'm going to ask it publicly, just so people know that whatever the number is that we finally accept, it goes within the cap. It has to go within that 2% tax cap.
Yes, whatever the increase comes back, it's not exempt from the tax cap calculation, so it would be something that we would need to factor into our planning for next year.
And when could we expect an update from them regarding our run efficiency and our buses and all of that?
So they have indicated to us it's going to be in a matter of months. So it's not something that we'll have before the February recess. I anticipate April would be maybe March.
The efficiency study, we're looking to maybe early February, because it's going to have to impact our budget decisions. The RFP/bid would also be around the February timeframe. We want to get out there sooner rather than later because it's going to have a major impact on our budget, so we need to know those numbers.
So it was April. Lisa got after them in February, so that is terrific for us.
Okay, very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Curriculum, I motion to approve the following Yorktown Congress of Teachers professional improvement proposals listed below.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Special ed, a motion to arrange the following placements as of November 20th, 2023.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A motion to approve the independent contracts for the 23-24 school year listed below. We have Putnam Valley Central School District and the Carafin School.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? All opposed? Gifts, grants, and donations. A motion to accept with gratitude the following gifts, grants, and donations at Brookside Admission for a third grade trip to the Lehman Center for the Arts from the Brookside PTA at the middle school and high school. 526 pocket constitution booklets for the middle school and high school libraries to divide equally from the 917 Society via Ms. Holly Beloff Davis.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're up to board comments. Pete?
Just the presentation on the Edu Climber, did I get that right? Again, fabulous. I thought that was long, long overdue, and I look forward to how it evolves over the years. And just for the rest of the board, I truly appreciate the robust discussion we had on the modified sports. I think that's really important because there's going to be other topics along this budget season I'm sure we're going to discuss. So it was very good.
Thank you. Catalina?
I want to thank you for the presentation. It's really exciting to see how we could, in the future, use this data for Tier 1, Tier 2, and how it looks across the district. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, seeing the ability to analyze the data that we have in an efficient way is truly impactful to all of our students. So I think that's fantastic, and wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Refresh me.
I agree. It was a great evening. I have a question for Dr. Hatter on the C-Lot. So I know that earlier in the year or late last year, we signed a contract with the town to kind of, for use of the C-Lot, but it's in bad shape. And just, the potholes and so is there a way to reach out to Mr. Paganelli and?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we certainly can. So I've been in communication with the town supervisor, my understanding was that the millings from the repaving of Route 202 were going to be placed and spread evenly across the C lot, so that should have been remedied over the past week or two, but we'll certainly follow up, and I'll make sure I have that conversation with the
Right.
town.
Right, because the entire C lot, I mean, in addition to being extremely uneven, like to go from the lower lot to the upper
Yeah.
lot, it's like a whole, like a hump. And not everyone drives,
Sure,
an
sure,
SUV,
sure.
so thank you.
I'll absolutely
Yeah.
follow up.
And happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Cheryl?
Yes, definitely. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope that everyone has some valuable time spending with family and friends this time of year. And one other comment and question for Dr. Hatter. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the drama this past weekend. However, we had a new stage 4. Did they christen it this weekend? Was that the first performance on
That
there?
was the
And how
first
was it? Do they
performance
like
on our new
it?
stage
And-
floor. So far, the reviews have been great, and it's
Great.
been uniformly great across the
Good.
performing music groups, the drama groups. So there's a lot of versatility to the new stage flooring that was selected, so everyone
Good.
was appreciative.
Okay, good.
And it was exciting, but yes, that was the first
very
official
nice.
performance
Okay,
on
good.
that stage.
Very nice.
People don't know, Cheryl, that we spent a lot of time in steering, picking those kinds of things out. Lisa?
So that EduClimber presentation was amazing. And what it really resonated with me was that Dr. Hatter and Ms. Ammerling and your whole team who's always here quietly for our board meetings really care about helping the students be everything that they can be. And that tool, while it was fancy and moved things around and made pretty pictures, it really is going to be useful for our teachers and our administrative staff to really help our kids. And the fact that that's always what your goal is really amazing. So thank you for taking the time, Dr. Hatter and Ms. Ammerling and everybody in the Peanut Gallery for doing that. It's really appreciated.
Yes, EduClimber is really exciting. I'm so excited to have all of these education reports coming back. It's just, COVID kind of stopped a lot of stuff. It's so exciting to be able to have these reports and see what's going on in the district. I agree with Pete. Thank you all for that robust discussion about modified sports. We learned a lot, I think, from each other, and it's great. I'm glad we can do that. And just happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Enjoy your time off. We're up to our last public comment? Nope. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night.
Good night.